Welcome to On Fire with Matthew Maurer. Today we're going to talk about mock drafts. What's the real value of them and how serious should we take them? Talk to you soon. Good evening, good morning, or good night, depending on when you're hearing this podcast or possibly watching this video. We're going to be talking today about mock drafts. I had an interesting conversation on Twitter, one that I think you could take with a grain of salt. But anyways, nonetheless, a gentleman who works in the industry, who's a sports reporter for a website that a few of us go to, told me that he only looks at about 3 mock drafts because those guys are the only ones that really know what they're talking about. Which led me to ask him a very honest question. Don't you just take this as entertainment? I mean, honestly, if you're watching the NBA draft, do you take a look at a mock draft and say, oh, these guys are idiots because they didn't get this kid? I don't think so. I don't think anybody does. I mean, let's call mock drafts what they are. It's mental masturbation. You're just taking a look at the guy and you're saying to yourself, hey, that would be an interesting possibility. Or, yeah, he would work well for what the team needs. I mean, really, that's it. Anybody who takes mock drafts seriously, I seriously have to ask you if you're all right. Because let's be honest, I mean, mock drafts, they don't mean anything. I mean, I saw one mock draft a few years ago that had Peter John Ramos as a top 5 pick. I've seen other mock drafts that have had guys that in the first round, and these are from respected sources, ESPN, NBA Draft.net, Draft Express, all these guys get it wrong. And why would they not? Anybody would get it wrong. I mean, you're taking a look at a mock draft and you're trying to be the GM. Well, how the hell can you be a GM? That's 30 different minds, 30 different viewpoints, and 30 different scouting departments. And we're saying to ourselves, let's figure out what they would do. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. There's nothing it will do. It really irks me when I hear people say, oh, I looked at this mock draft and these guys are morons. What the hell did you look at a mock draft for anything more than entertainment? I mean, if you're taking a look at a mock draft and you're saying to yourself, man, these guys know what they're talking about. I gotta ask you, do you think you really know what you're talking about? Because, I mean, let's be real. Mock drafts are just fun. It's just fun. My 3-year-old, 4-year-old could do a mock draft. I mean, it's really that elementary. It really is. All you're doing is basically ranking players. You're not even taking into account A, team names, and B, people who sit around and want to know, well, why, Matt, don't you do mock drafts? Didn't you do mock drafts for NBA Draft.net? Yeah, sure I did. Sure. I participated in that, and we would ask each other what we thought about players, and we would go down the line and say, hey, I don't think Darko Milicic should be ranked over Carmelo Anthony, but it looks like NBA teams might have Darko Milicic over Carmelo Anthony. I mean, these are things that you go through, and let me be honest, just to state my point and just to show you how inaccurate and imperfect the science of scouting and projection is, I actually thought Darko Milicic was going to be kind of good. I was one of the few that covered him at that time. I said to myself, man, this guy, he's amazing. He really is. I don't know what happened in Detroit. To me, that should be a 30 for 30 series in itself. I mean, anybody who looked at Darko Milicic and told me they saw a bust, yeah, right. Get the hell out of here. No one saw a bust. No one did. I don't care who they were. I don't care who they say they were. Anybody who tells me they looked at Darko Milicic and they said, oh, he's a bust, is full of shit. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if Carmelo Anthony would have been drafted 2, Darko would have went 3. I mean, that's a fact. Anybody who tries to deny that is lying. It's a fact. He was that good. But needless to say, we're bypassing the real point of today's conversation, which is, mock drafts inherently, it's basically putting a dartboard up and throwing darts. I mean, you really are. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a little bit of science to it. You're taking a look at players and you're trying to, is this guy a first rounder? How do I feel about that guy? And let's be honest, very few mock drafts have opinion in them. Most of them come from the idea that what a team's going to do. And case in point, I remember talking to Jonathan Givony, years ago, and he actually said that he believed Kevin Durant was the best player on the board, but, he felt that Greg Oden was going to go number one. Well, he didn't really relay his personal feelings into the rankings, or should I say the mock. So a lot of times when you're sitting there and evaluating players and you're trying to gauge where they may go in the draft, you are in some instances, there is a science. Like I said, there is a science behind it. Is it this thing that you should print out and take as the gospel? Absolutely not. I mean, come on. First of all, these people with these sources, let me tell you something. When it comes to the NBA draft, sources are about as good as prostitutes who are sinless. It makes no sense, dude. It's not gonna happen. It's impossible. Is what it really is. I mean, seriously. You talk to a scout, you talk to a GM, and you take that as holy gospel, you're a moron, and you're going to be proved to be a moron if you relay that information. Because, I can tell you just a few years ago, there was a gentleman that worked for ESPN, and I'm not going to say his name because I do have, respect for him, but, he said Hollis Price was going to be a first rounder. And he said a GM told him that at Portsmouth. So, and for those who may not have watched college basketball at the time, Hollis Smith was a very good guard that played for Oklahoma some ways back. And basically, at Portsmouth, he had a solid showing, and there was a GM there that wanted to play a little game and told the reporter, hey, he's a first rounder, we're going to take him in the first, and he never got drafted the whole draft. So when I tell you that GMs and scouts are inherently not going to give you the real 411 on players, it's absolute truth. They're not going to. And why would they? You think these 30 teams are at war for the best players in the draft? You really think they're going to tell your favorite sports reporter, oh yeah, with the 5th pick we're going to take such and such, or any of these guys out here who make mock drafts? I mean, come on, don't be an idiot, seriously. And don't get me wrong, mock drafts have their place. I mean, hell, I remember the first and only place you can get a mock draft was Don Leventhal. After that, Chris Monter. And for you draft nicks that are like me, that have been in this for quite a long time, those names like the Bible of the 12, disciples. These guys. And then after that, it was me. Then after that, it was Aaron. And then after that, it was Jonathan and Chad Ford. I mean, the mock draft has literally gone from something that very select few people paid attention to being a mainstay. Now CBS has a mock guy, Basketball Insiders has a mock guy. Like, all these guys have mock drafts and stuff, and they want to tell me how professional and how accurate and articulate they are when they cover the draft and all this other stuff. Listen, bro, I've been doing this since 1998. Okay, I can't tell you how many guys have come in and come out of this draft business. This is a tough business, and anybody who thinks it's not a tough business is mistaken. There's a reason why guys who are in this business, you do respect your Jonathan Givony, you do respect your Aaron Smiths. But at the end of the day, how much respect do you give? I mean, let's be honest. I can't tell you how many times I've had agents tell me that they've bought slots in draft and mock drafts, and people say, "Well, Matt, didn't you just say the mock draft was useless?" It is, but the mock draft can be used to change the perception of a player. Case in point, I remember one year we had, Maciek Lampy, who we had as high as a top 10 pick in our mock draft when I was working with Aaron as a senior scout at NBADraft.net. Now, there was such this buzz for him And this is an international born player here. This is a guy with no college basketball roots, was basically bred and born in the American conscience from NBA Draft.net doing its stories and scouting reports and things of that nature, to ESPN doing a wonderful story on him, to the New York Times develop him. Case in point, I guess what I'm saying is at that draft, the Madison Square Garden fans in the second round, when the New York Knicks picked, were all chanting Maciek Lampy's name. I mean, that's the power of a mock draft for an agent. It's the idea of planting a seed in the basketball community's mind about a player. I always try to give a little light to guys who may not have the ability to get exposure. A few years ago, I had Garrett Seiler. I had Markelle Gladness from Alabama A&M. Occasionally, I will put guys up on my mock board, and I always do it with like the last 2 picks in the draft, because those last 2, let's be honest, they're going to either be an international player or a developing big man 9 out of 10 times. So I always, hey, why not take a chance on a kid from outside D1. Now, again, I only do that when it's feasible, like when I have an Avis Wyatt or when I had Garrett Seiler. These are guys that I thought had, at least an NBA skill. Garrett Seiler had size. Avis Wyatt had a nice little versatility, solid athlete. And that's a practice that you won't find very many people doing, just because, let's be honest, you want to accurately report on prospects, and sometimes when you take chances on lower level guys, there's a lot of people that are going to say, hey, this is BS. But again, I root for the underdogs all the time, so call it what you will. Now, to wrap that all up, there's no point in taking this stuff serious when it comes to mock drafts. They should just be for entertainment, discussion, and hell, if you want to have a little bit of argument around the water cooler at work, that's fine. Anything else above that is just naivete. All right, that's about it for today. Please, if you like the video, subscribe, share, and look forward to talking to you guys next week. This will be a weekly feature as we talk more about the NBA draft and what it pertains to.